Greetings, ladies and germs. The date is Wednesday, June 25th at around 1:40 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm Josh Davis, and I'm joined here today by Andrew Shimon,
Hello.
otherwise known as Shmandarin, in anticipation of his, is this 9? 8, 9?
Seventh, actually.
Seventh album entitled Death by Stereo, which is coming out here real soon, Andrew.
Oh, yeah, July 11th. It's hard to believe.
Yes. And according to, what you've been sort of teasing at online, this is going to be the finale, so to speak, of Shmandarin albums. Is that correct? Or do you want to elaborate on that a little bit? Or
So, in terms of, full-on, projects, albums, I'd say yes, it definitely will be. It's not like I'm going to quit the whole music thing altogether. Maybe I'll do, a song here and there once in a blue moon, when I feel inspired to, but nothing big or substantial like this. Then I do plan on shifting to be more sort of like a producer and whatnot, just kind of help other artists and whatnot.
yeah. I also think, at least in my experience, and you can say whether or not you agree with this, but sometimes when you start a project and it turns into a sustained thing, it kind of gets difficult to end it, even if you don't feel the same. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but you started making music under the moniker of Shmandarin when you were 18 years old, 17 years old, something like that.
Oh, yeah.
And you're now, 31, 30?
Yeah, 31, yeah.
Yeah. So,
how about that?
So I think it's safe to say that a lot has changed in your life since you started. And so, to, not that artists can't evolve or anything, but maybe that, the music you were making as 18-year-old Shmandarin might not be the same as 31-year-old Shmandarin, and it's nice to be able to kind of just put a lid on that jar and still have the creative freedom to do projects and release music, but maybe repackaged in a different way that makes more sense for where you are right now. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. 17-year-old Shmandarin from doing a guest spot on a song called 68 from this underground rapper Jay Smooth.
Sounds interesting.
Oh, yeah. And then, if you compare the songs back then to the songs now, the whole 180, completely different kind of deal. So, it's definitely going to be interesting to kind of see where Shmandarin, in a sense, kind of ends up after this.
Yeah.
But we'll see. But like I said, albums definitely done. EPs, probably done with that too. Maybe a song or two here and there. But more or less, every single major album I've done has always coincidentally aligned with some sort of major life event. In this case, trauma.
Yeah.
Or in the past, it was just kind of going through college, high school, and all that good stuff. But
Right.
But yeah, I don't think I can really have many more. No, I'm not going to jinx myself.
Yeah, and I want to dive into that too. But first, before we get into that, you made the decision to, in addition to digital release on streaming platforms and whatnot, do a limited run of vinyl for this record.
Yeah, I have.
Can you talk to me about what inspired that? If anything, or if you were just it'd be cool as hell to have my record on vinyl.
It definitely was part of, it'd be cool as hell to have it. But also considering this is going to be the final album, I figured, what better way to kind of do a send-off than to do a very limited vinyl run of it. So by the time this probably ends up gets released, I'm not sure if they'll sell out or not. Probably not, but there's going to be 20 hand-numbered, hand-signed, pressed on clear, as I call it, pool water clear vinyl to wear, and I quote, It will allow you to see through anything and anyone. But yeah, 20 copies. My copy is definitely going to be framed. Each of them are going to be hand numbered, hand signed. I think I might have already said that, but it's definitely something like very special to me to kind of have like a physical representation of the almost 15 years of music creation and whatnot, kind of leading up to that.
That's what I was getting ready to say. Actually, is that like I think a lot of times in any sort of creative space, but particularly music, it's very hard not to get stuck in the like comparison loop. Like I made this thing and I put it out and it didn't get this many views, or this band's doing better, or I sound just like this band. Why aren't we blown up the same way they are? But when you like strip it back and you think about like what your and legacy seems like way too important of a word, but like as someone who creates something, the legacy that you leave is the physical art that you leave behind, and that's a legacy that you create, and there's no cooler way to do that than with a physical media release. So I think it's very cool. And like you said, capping off the decade and a half of Shmandarin music, it's cool. I'm very excited for you.
Well, thanks.
So let's dive into the record. It's 10 tracks on the standard release, and it starts off with Unlucky Number 7, which I really enjoyed. I think it has like it's just very like explosive, catchy. The guitar riffs I like a lot. The lead guitar riffs I think are super catchy. Good one.
Thanks.
And it also sort of sets the tone of the album, which doesn't take a rocket scientist to sort of pick up that there's a common thread that weaves its way in between a lot of the songs. And the thing that I like about this record, like straight from the top all the way through, is that there's a theme, like I said, and there's also a stylistic theme where it's like, okay, this is like predominantly a pop punk record, but there's also a ton of like genre bending and interesting like directions that you sort of weave in and out of on different songs, like the Vice Versa song. Love all the synths that you use in there. It sounds a lot like a Weezer song, like. And then the Tennessee Whiskey has almost like a slide guitar sounding thing on it, but it's not a slide guitar, right? It's just like
it's actually synth. It's a slide guitar, but it's done through a synth.
Gotcha.
So it's meant to have like a little bit of like a kind of like a country tone to it, but yeah, funny story about that song, which we can dive into later. But the whole overarching theme. So funny story about this album, when I was kind of in the very early stages of conceptualizing it. It was meant to like kind of tell the story of like a musician who's stuck in this nightmare and more or less can't escape it. Like he's trying to write this like great album and just can't seem to like get it together, and it's having like all this kind of stuff going on. It's kind of like in a sense dragging him down in a way and preventing him from doing this. So Unlucky Number 7 kind of starts off with that concept of the character is kind of finding himself in a bar. A friend of his who he used to work with is the bartender, and then I kind of changed a little bit of that to incorporate one of my very close female friends to kind of be that bartender. It's like, oh, I'm always going up to her for like advice, like, or when relationship stuff goes wrong, I'm always like consulting her and whatnot to kind of get the female like point of view in a sense. But so I think I started writing this in like late 2021, early 2022. So it's been about a good 3.5 years in the making for this entire album in general. But that initial story concept, like kind of like a whole concept album or like a rock opera sort of thing, but not as like, how should I say, involved or intense as say like Welcome to the Black Parade or American Idiot.
American
You're
Idiot,
right.
right?
So I had this very awful heartbreak with a woman who I thought was almost I thought was the one. So you hear like parts and pieces of that throughout, like especially on Vice Versa, is more or less the time like she invited me over and we ended up, hooking up and whatnot. But I was under the guise of, hey, this is gonna be something, this is gonna be great, gonna be happily ever after, but turns out it's not. So I promise I'm getting to the end of the story somewhere. But so maybe about a year ago, so like sometime around 2024, maybe 2023, no, like 2024, yeah. I had this like nightmare where she was getting married, the woman that, kind of ruined me. And I realized I'm not over her yet. I need closure. And so in this dream, I'm just like desperate to try to get a hold of her, try to find her so I can at least just get that one last word and say, hey, like this is what you did to me. Just acknowledge it, say you're sorry or something so I can move on from it, move past it. Um, and then I woke up literally almost paralyzed in like sadness and like, I don't want to say pain, but like kind of like painful sadness. Like I was just,
Yeah, like emotional pain.
yeah, I just like didn't want to move. Like I couldn't, like for like a solid 5 minutes, I couldn't move. And I thought it was like one of those like lucid dreams in a sense, but no, I was flat out, I could not move. But, so yeah, then at that point I realized I'm just going to kind of take what I had of the album at that point, just kind of rewrite parts of it to kind of fit that. On although there's like not one specific song that kind of deals with that whole nightmare thing, unless we talk about like the deluxe edition, which kind of has a demo version of that, but never really made it to there. But yeah,
So
I forgot where we were going.
just that there was a common thread.
Yeah. Oh, the common theme. Okay.
And it
Yeah.
sort of weaves in and out of the songs, going all the way down to the interlude halfway through 10, 23, 23, where you pretty much lay out exactly the story, and there's no after that. There's no mistaking what you were talking about, no room for interpretation, because it's very clearly like
Yep.
laid out there. Obviously, there's a lot of like vulnerability in, it's cathartic to do that, to write it
Absolutely.
for one thing, but then to put it out there in the world and have other people hear that. Do you get hung up on that at all, or does it feel good to have that off your chest?
I think it definitely feels good to have it off my chest. And ironically, after I wrote 10, 23, 23, it was more, it definitely intended to be like kind of like a spoken word thing that turned into like some like heavy outro that would lead into the second half of the album. Um, at that point when I wrote that, 10, 23, 23 was the day that she actually invited me over. But Vice Versa was talking about the whole experience in general. It's like more or less if I ever were to perform that song live, I'd be like, hey, this is a song about having sex. And, but I sent her the pretty much that letter to her, because we ended up like kind of like talking to each other again for a very brief period of time. So I felt like, yeah, this is my chance, if any, to kind of explain, hey, this is how I felt after that, and what she felt. She said she felt awful. I don't know if she actually did or not, because then she more or less would just stop talking to me again. I think the intro of Tennessee Whiskey kind of alludes to as like, am I a fool if I let her break me a third time? So, but yeah, though it was very cathartic at least to do that. And I know when I initially first completed that song, 10, 23, 23, I was riding in the car with our friend Ryan, and I could literally see the look on his face where he's just like, wow, this is sad. This is like really depressing. And he's like, I'm about to start tearing up on this. It's like I guess mission accomplished, just trying to convey like actual emotion and feeling
Right.
into a song.
And to have it feel authentic and not like forced or cheesy. Like,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
the other kind of cool thing about this, the way that the record is structured, and I don't know if you did this intentionally or if it just sort of worked out that way, is that it's almost like the going through like the stages of grief, because like the first couple are sort of like denial or just like, no, don't. It's just like, don't talk to me, leave me alone, and then it's just like, yeah, then there's just like the depression piece of it and the bargaining, and then the interlude is just like the very like honest retelling of how it was, and then the second half of the record starts to sort of dip into the more optimistic piece, which culminates on the last track, Rose Petals, which I really, really like that song.
Oh, thanks.
That song is very cool. It's, like I said, sort of like, all right, you know what? Shit happens. I can come back from this, like, and I'm going to. Culminating in the part where you do the, like, gang vocals at the end, the no one can stop me thing. I was like, let's go.
Oh, yeah.
That was very cool.
Little bit of screaming vocals, too.
Yeah, you sort of dipped your toes into that throughout the album. What was that like? Figuring out how to do that.
Oh God, my voice was so destroyed after trying to nail that. More so in "I Was Her Mistake," which was originally called "Rainy Days," but the bridge during that where I was like, "Storm coming at you," from "It's Always Sunny," and I just kind of, oh God, I did at least a solid 10, 15 takes of that in one night. Granted, I had a little bit to drink too, so it probably didn't help. Then I was like, at one point I just couldn't even go through half it with like my voice giving out. I was like, yep, that's it. And then revisited a week later, same thing. Tried. I just couldn't really nail it. Then the third night I tried to do it. I worked out. I feel.
You felt good about it.
Oh yeah.
I actually have a question about that song.
Yeah.
I Was Her Mistake. There's a line in there where you're like, I just need to head to the North Coast, I believe you said.
Yes.
Why the North Coast as opposed to the East or West or even Southern Coast? You're going up to the chilly lands, huh?
The chilly lands, yes. I mean, you and I both know, like, we have that special, like, Northeast Ohio kind of pride in ourselves, like, especially the Cleveland area. More or less the top of Ohio is almost synonymously known as the North Coast. More so talking about like the Sandusky area, Lake Erie Islands. I really love going out there for vacation.
Gotcha.
So
you're not heading up to Canada?
Oh no. I mean, I'm kind of close to Canada. If you take the ferry ride just a little ways, but no.
Yeah.
Close though.
Yeah, I'm just looking over my notes here.
Very good.
The where's he at? Can you see him? Oh yeah, there he is.
Yeah, like okay.
The other sort of piece of optimism that pops up, or at least the line that I thought was interesting, is on the third track, the Coast Guard, who called the Coast Guard.
Oh yeah. All right, who called the Coast Guard?
Where you're talking about how, your struggles with dealing with this event and how you kind of wish that you could be with this person again or talk to them or see them again. But you said, but I would rather be blue, which I thought was interesting because it's sort of like a like self-realization that it's like, yeah, this would be more fun if I could just be with you, but it's not ultimately good for me, and I know this, so I'm just gonna, I guess, suck it up. I'd rather be blue, which I I don't know. I found that interesting. That was my only note as I wrote it in quotations. I wrote, I'd rather be blue. And I was like, I'm going to say something about that. I don't really have anything more to go with it. But
Yeah. Yeah, a little background behind that lyric, too, is kind of like the very beginning of the album kind of starts off where the Shades EP left off. Because I initially intended that EP to kind of be like a prelude to the end, aka the beginning of the end, kind of leading into the final album. So I would that entire EP slash the first 3 songs of the album kind of talk about me getting over a previous heartbreak from someone I never intended to have feelings for, and she I don't know. There's always going to be like her, the way she'll explain it and the way I'll explain it. And the way I'll always explain it is I have no idea like how she felt about the entire thing. I just kind of, in a sense, overread the situation, if that makes sense. And then I ended up getting hurt out of the deal unintentionally. But kind of getting over somebody, ups, and then Starlight is about meeting the kind of like the main person who would like the main woman who would like trauma, go through all his trauma with, vice versa. There we go.
Yeah.
So then
with a little J hook at the end.
With a little J hook at the end.
Yes.
I was kind of thinking about this a little bit ago, but every album that I've always recorded, there's always unintentionally it's like, and I'm not going to end it on a sad note. Make it a little positive.
Right. Which I like because like that's very human. It's like I don't know too many people who don't have problems. You know what I mean? But you have 2 options really, which is just to wallow in them or to be like, all right, I'm going to allow myself 9 songs to be upset about this, and then on the 10th one, I'm gonna start getting back on the horse. So,
right.
I thought that was cool.
Yep.
The production. So you're a 1-man band, right?
Yeah.
So you obviously do all the vocals, and you play the guitar and the bass and the synth work, and you program the drums. Is that correct?
Yes. Yep.
Yes.
Drums are all programmed via the Logic Pro kind of. I don't want to say it's AI because I don't feel it's like that great, but it kind of has a good sense of like, my progressions, like rhythm, and it kind of works around it. So Logic Pro does all the heavy lifting.
So to that point, you were talking about in the future wanting to get into more production stuff. The production on the album sounds awesome, like the guitars, tones, and mixing, and you did some stuff where you bounced stuff from left to right, and it just sounds really good. Are you interested in, or like, what's your thought process behind someone coming in and being like, yeah, I want you to record our EP, we've got a full kit, and we've got like, is that something that you have any experience with, or you're looking forward to tackle, or what?
I mean, I'll definitely be open to trying it for sure. I not great at the drums. Like I can have like that sense of rhythm. Like if I were like saying using like a synth, I could probably come up with something great. It's just actual drum kit. Like I just got to translate.
Yeah,
that to,
I guess I was talking more on the production side of like being able to record it and
yeah.
Because in my experience, when you record drums, you have to mic up like 6 different places, and you have to put floating one over the cymbals, and you got to have the crotch mic, and you got to have the kick mic and all that.
Yeah.
And I was just, it seems.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be
fun,
open to it.
Like to tinker around with, but it also seems like a thing that you definitely have to trial and error a few times before you get it right. Yeah. Well, is there anything else that you would like to add to the people, seeing as this is the, so to speak, Shmandarin swan song? As you reflect on your last 15 years.
I guess more so one of the things I'll add is more or less a thank you to anybody who's listened, like in the past, whether it be 2011, 2013, 20, so on and so forth, or if you're just tuning in for one of the first times, with this final album, it's appreciated all the same. So hilariously, like I was kind of hinting at earlier, like there's a funny story between like the whole Tennessee whiskey thing / country song. I have an ex-coworker I used to work with at Target. She came up to me the one day while I was shopping there, probably a while ago. And she, at that time, I literally just probably released Musicianary 3, Gone Country, some months before. And she's like, so, when's the country album coming? And I was like, I don't think I'm writing a country album. And she's like, oh, like, so that's the only country song? It's like, why? Is that what you like? And she's like, yeah, country's all the rage now. Like, I mean, I guess I can, swing it. So that's how Tennessee Whiskey came about. I can't remember what I originally titled it, or the vision of it was supposed to be more like, this song's like definitely not available like on any streaming services, but if you look up the song, it's called, oh, I can't even remember the title of it now, but it's by this band called City Comma State, and it was featuring Mark Hoppus. It was kind of going for that vibe kind of a song, but then it just turned into like a y'alternative.
Did you say y'alternative?
Song, but yeah, exactly. That's what I was going for. Y'alternative. So she was telling me, oh, Musicianary is great. And I was like, oh yeah, Musicianary 3. And she's like, that was the third one. It's like, what's 1 and 2? And that was at that point I realized, oh, not everybody was around for the early days.
Yeah.
And so that's when I realized, oh yeah, I got different kinds of fans, or
right.
from different, who's heard this,
different pockets,
who hasn't heard new stuff, or has only heard new stuff, hasn't heard the old stuff. Yeah. So that was kind of wild and surreal to kind of deal with. So that's how Tennessee Whiskey came about. And then I was just talking to her again, like on a different occasion, just it's like oh yeah, after my whole April Fool's joke of releasing a country album, Sad Horny Cowboy, and which inspired her and I to have another talk about country music. And I said, okay, you come up with a song title and I'll write the lyrics and I'll whip up something and I'll throw it on the deluxe edition of the album. So she came up with the song title Whiskey Filled Heart, and then that one sounds a lot more country than Musicianary 3 or Tennessee Whiskey.
Yeah, I would agree. Well, Andrew, thank you for joining me today. Check out the album July 11th, Death by Stereo, and pick up a vinyl at
Shmandarin.bandcamp.com.
There it is. Have a great rest of your day, man.
Thanks, man. You too.